Tate is here working on loose leash walking, reactivity, and frustration tolerance. He is coming up on his second week of board and train. On our walks, we just have been focusing on staying relaxed, staying calm, and not pulling on the leash. So you'll see that I do let him sniff whenever he would like to, unless a trigger's coming up. If it's safe to do so, I let him sniff and I let him look. Anytime he is offering eye contact, I am rewarding him pretty much every time, either by feeding from my hand or feeding on the ground. Here you'll see me practice a couple of U-turns in just a second. U-turns are really, really helpful for reactive dogs to practice, because if you find yourself approaching a situation where you are boxed in, you need to be able to get out of the situation without yanking your dog around. So for Tate, we use the word this way, which just means we're going the opposite direction. So I think after a couple of these treat tosses, there you go, you see him do a U-turn and he's going to do another one. The thing to point out is that the leash remains loose during the whole process. Now, obviously, if we were in a situation where things were going south and he had to get out of there, you just need to get out of dodge. You can pull the dog, you can get him out, but in a training setup and ideal situations, I would like him to be able to turn on his own. There you saw him offer a beautiful sit before we crossed the street. I'm trying to get him to offer some good behavior on his own. Start to think a little bit harder, not try to hold his hand or tell him exactly what I want every time. I want him to kind of figure it out and make good decisions on his own. There you can also see I was using a little bit of a hand touch to kind of get him back to my side. He had lagged a little bit walking there, so instead of pulling him along, using a hand target to get him where I want. But again, no one's around, no dogs, and so if he wants to sniff, I'm encouraging sniffing, but I'm also rewarding anytime he is giving eye contact. That was a really nice offered sit that he did just there. So, going back and forth between a treat toss and feeding from my hand, one thing that is great about that is a treat toss is a kind of exciting way to reward him. So we are practicing very low levels of, higher arousal, lower arousal practice in a way that is easy for him, that he's going to be successful. So I did stop him here because I was like, all right, buddy, there's something you got to do. And he figured it out. He did sit there. That was good. We have been walking on the busier road, and he's been really, really good about making good decisions, staying with me. If he sees a dog, we do a food scatter. I do believe there was a dog crossing across the street here, and so I did a little bit of food scatter. He was really interested in some piece of grass over here, and he was sniffing off to the side, but then I pointed to the treats, and he did go ahead and get them there. The reason a treat scatter is so important and is different from just dispensing treats into a dog's mouth is that your dog's head is going to be a little bit lower, which is a little bit more calm body language. So first of all, they're less of a threat to another dog that might be around, so that creates less of a target, especially if you have a reactive dog. You don't want to bring a lot of attention to other dogs. There we just did another U-turn practice. But another thing that, the food scatters and sniffing for food is really helpful for is that it puts your dog into more of a hunting-seeking mindset. That sniffing for the treats and snuffling around actually physically calms them. Sniffing lowers heart rate, it lowers blood pressure, it physically calms the dog. But also a dog that's sniffing, a dog that's searching, is kind of in the opposite mindset of reactivity, and there's a piece of trash there that he was interested in. One thing I also want to point out too, so we did a couple of U-turns already on our walk, and there wasn't really any trigger coming. It's really important that he practices U-turns or this way when there's nothing going on, because if I'm only practicing it when I see a dog, then he can start to associate that U-turn cue with a dog approaching. Now just there I was doing a treat place on the ground, which is a very calm way to deliver treats. So we've been practicing different ways of getting treated, and placing a treat on the ground is a very low arousal way to reinforce him. Now, at that street crossing, there was a car coming, and so instead of letting him figure it out, I did ask him for a sit before we crossed. And here we're on a median. I did throw some treats here to encourage some sniffing, but we are going to kind of walk along the median for just a little bit with the tall grass, just to let him sniff and do doggy stuff. Again, as long as he's not pulling, he's allowed to kind of wander wherever he wants to. But this is a really nice activity that is very self-rewarding to the dog, especially a hound type. And the whole time he's doing this, he's in a little bit more low arousal state. This helps to kind of keep his brain calm, keep him, from climbing up into arousal. And it's a really good way to kind of teach him to self-moderate, because while it's really helpful to be able to do treat scatters, teaching a dog to go and sniff, it's more self-driven. He can do it on his own, and he doesn't have to necessarily rely on the handler helping him out. So it is a really good step in the direction of teaching him to kind of regulate himself. So I stopped him from walking there because he was like, wait, hold on, I want to just cross the street. So I did block him a little bit there, and he did a nice little sit. He got a treat. And I'm using a little bit of the fence line. I love using fence line to encourage dogs to sniff. So, if possible, I'll walk them on the side where a fence is so that they can just sniff along and explore and keep themselves kind of calm. And here we're doing a little bit of treat tosses as well. So he's doing really great. I did ask, I think, for attention here, and he had a hard time looking back, so I paused and waited, and he eventually did give me some eye contact there. I'm not trying to nag him when we're walking. I want to be connected, but it's not just me bugging him for attention the whole time. But when I do ask for attention, I think it's important that he is able to give me that.